ask you to turn off your cell phones, everybody, and take your conversations outside. We don't want to have a lot of chatter in here while we're trying to listen to the speakers at our meeting. We want to hear our testimony. In terms of announcements, I'd like to, Senator Liu has SB 876, item 1. This has been pulled from today's agenda. SB 876. So we are not hearing this bill today. She has pulled this item. When we get a quorum, we'll call the roll. We have one item on consent, item 3, SB 1066. Bell, that's me. And we also have somebody new sitting on the dais. Members, please welcome Katie Bonin as our newest lead committee assistant. She's going to be with us helping all the community and the senators in Transportation Housing Committee. So welcome, Katie.
Welcome, Katie.
We're going to ask Senator Leyva to present her bill. This is item, since she's here, on time. Good job. And we'll ask Senator Leyva to present item 4, SB 1106, mobile home. Senator, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Before I make my statement, I would like to say that as the chair of the Select Committee on Mobile Homes, I really had no idea how many issues there were surrounding mobile homes until I took this position. And I hope that this bill and more bills to follow in the future will really help the mobile home parks, their owners, and their members who live there. So good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members. Thank you for the opportunity to present SB 1106. We all have mobile home parks or trailer parks in our districts, and we also know that some of these parks have chronic health and safety issues. A number of those mobile home parks I have visited. Currently, there are no effective penalties for health and safety code violations under the State Mobile Home Parks Act. This weakness in state law has allowed some mobile home and trailer parks to delay, sometimes for years, necessary cleanup and abatement of dangerous situations. Several cities in my district have asked me to do something to bring serious change in how mobile home and trailer parks and their communities deal with the enforcement of serious health and safety violations. SB 1106 strengthens the health and safety code by adding meaningful authority to the Mobile Home Parks Act. If SB 1106 is enacted, enforcement officers would be able to issue citations that apply penalties to each threat to human safety, which will ultimately help these become safer and healthier communities. The best news about SB 1106 is that the penalty fees go right back into the program, making this a self-funding enforcement effort. In 2 of the mobile home parks in one of the cities that I represent last year, we found out that there was an infectious disease, and we had quite a bit of trouble eradicating that, and we were able to, but something like this with enforcement penalties would be extremely helpful in that situation and situations that we may find ourselves in the future. So members, I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Okay, thank you, Senator. We have witnesses in favor of this. Please come forward. Any witnesses? See none. Witnesses opposed or have concern, please come forward. Welcome to the Senate Housing and Transportation Committee.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members. Brian Augusta on behalf of the California Rural Legal Assistance Foundation. We're in that middle category. We do have concerns with the bill, which we've shared this week with the author's office, and we're continuing to evaluate the proposal. We have a number of concerns which I'll share with you briefly, but I do want to emphasize that we support the premise behind the bill. We do also, on behalf of the folks who live in manufactured housing communities and often face these substandard conditions, do want to see HCD's enforcement authority improved to the goal of getting repairs made. Our concerns around the bill is what's not in there so far, which include the ability for our often very low-income clients to obtain relief from citations, which they won't have the ability to pay in some instances, and which would just further exacerbate the problem if we don't provide relief from the citation. If the ultimate goal is to get the repairs made, we think that should be the goal. And anytime that an inspector goes into a park to look at violations for the park, they're also going to be citing the home. So we need to focus on that and make sure that there is an out for our low-income clients who truly can't pay and for whom it will only make a bad situation worse. Our second concern centers around making sure that there are resources to actually get the repairs done. Our interest is in ensuring that the homes, many of which are older homes and occupied by lower income folks who don't have the resources themselves to fix them up, how, if we're issuing repair orders repeatedly, do we ensure that they can actually get those repairs made? And I think we're going to need to talk to HCD to make that happen. And then the last thing, Mr. Chairman and members, at the end of the day, the citation authority only gets us so far for the really, really bad actors, and I'm speaking now about the mobile home park owner who simply will not make the repairs even after being issued citations. And I think ultimately we need to look at additional authority that gives greater ability for HCD and local governments to ensure that the repairs get made and that the park is preserved. And we're looking forward to working with the senator and her staff and other stakeholders on trying to solve all of those things so that we get a truly comprehensive solution. So for those reasons, we're concerned with the bill. We do want to see it move forward so that we can continue these conversations, and hopefully in short order, we will address those issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Other witnesses, please.
Catherine Borg with the Western Manufactured Housing and Communities Association. It's always fun when Brian and I can be sitting on the same table together. We have an oppose unless amended position on this currently. We are working with the author to try and address some of our concerns, two of them being, one, if the citation is issued to the resident, the park owner doesn't want to have to assume the resident citation if that becomes unpaid by the resident, because ultimately the park owner is responsible for correcting all the violations in the park, and we don't want to have to pay for those. And then secondly, if at some point in time, the hammer is pulled, that the permit to operate is pulled by the park, which is often the case, and that has been the case without having these citations, we would not like to have the penalties, additional penalties on top of that, because that is a big hammer. That means that the park owner is not allowed to collect rent during the time in which the permit is pulled, and that's a pretty big fine. And I kind of did a rough estimate as far as the uncorrected violations, because the penalties in the bill go anywhere between $100 and $500 depending on the penalty. On average, if you averaged a $250 penalty alone on the uncorrected violations between the parks and the residents, that's going to be a $2 million increase to their budget, which is currently only $1 million, so that's going to be, tripling their income. So that's just to look at that. It's a lot of money.
I explain how you figure that, Catherine Borg, please.
Well, their income right now for the program is $1 million, and if on average we're looking at an additional $2 million, it's going to be $3 million for the MPM program.
Okay.
Which we hope that would be used for good.
All right, thank you. Other witnesses on this issue? Senator, do you have any comments responding to the concerns?
So first, I would say that happy to work with both of you. I know we just started talking, I think, this week, but I do believe that there's a way that we can get to something that we're both good with. When we talk about the relief from the citations, our hope with this bill, if you tour mobile home parks, and I have been to many over the last year, some of the violations from the residents didn't happen overnight. They continue to build on and add things that are unpermitted. did. The hope is if this bill becomes a law, that the park owners, when they see that happening, say, hey, you know what, you can't do that, you may be cited for that, it could be a problem. And the resources to get work done, there are some, San Bernardino County does have a resource to help folks with some of those things. When people call our office, we always try and point them in a direction where they can get something fixed or taken care of that doesn't cost them money. We understand that people who live in mobile home parks generally are low income, so these could be hard for them. The permit to operate being pulled, you know, that is the biggest hammer, and we hate to see that happen for a number of reasons. We did find there is a mobile home park in Pomona. We just found out they have not had a permit to operate since 1987, and they have been collecting rent, so we're not exactly sure how that is going to proceed. There are a lot of issues with mobile home parks. This is one bill that I'm happy to work with everyone on so that we can start things moving in the right direction for the residents and for the owners of the mobile home parks. So I thank you for your time and respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Yeah, thank you, Senator. And I think when we'll reach a quorum, we'll call for the vote. I just want to say that both parties here developed some, you know, legitimate issues, and I hope that they can be resolved. So
I think they can.
Thank you. Thank you, I'm sure.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, we'll call
Mr.
for a
Chair.
vote
Thank you,
when
committee members.
quorum is reached. Thank you. Okay. Transportation Committee needs authors. So we're looking for senators to come.
Senator Hancock is presenting in Human Services right now.
We need, we have 3 offers we're looking for. If they do not come here, I will go looking for them. We're looking for Senator Hertzberg, Senator Glazer. Senator Hancock, I believe, is in Human Services presenting a bill at this time, so what we're looking for is Senator Hertzberg or Senator Glazer. We can hear their bills.
We did get affirmative from everyone. We did get affirmatives from everyone that they would be here.
Yeah, yeah. Well, get there. What's happening is senators are presenting bills in other committees, and they're coming here now. We have 2 that are arriving shortly, so. Okay. Let's see, we have 2 senators. Let's go with Senator Hertzberg. You have the floor, Senator. Senator Hertzberg is presenting SB 881. This is item 2 on our agenda. Senator Hertzberg, you have the floor.
I want you to know, Mr. Chairman, it's going to take a while for the other authors because I brought the vehicle code with me and marked about, Mr. Bedard in my office marked a lot of stuff there. You know, You had mentioned this morning in another committee, Senator, about the bill last year, both the bill and the budget trailer bill that dealt with this very significant problem that we have in California. And it's, you know, we're trying to fix it, and the thing with government is sometimes you give it a shot, doesn't work, you retool and you try to get it right. And when we had the budget downturns, we kept adding fees and fees and fees on, you know, to pay for other expenses associated with the operations of the courts, and even extended further than that. And what we ended up happening was we had a really horrible situation. Because on the one hand, we had this illusory notion that we were raising money for government when in fact there was a $10 billion backlog. And the other hand, we're taking driver's licenses away from folks that fundamentally affects their lives. And just so you know, taking away driver's license isn't just about driving. It's about having a background check if you want to go to work and you've got something against your record and they say, sorry, that's not the case. We can't give you a job. And so we had 4.2 million people in California losing their licenses, and now the amnesty program's working like just brilliantly. So the next question is, what's the next thing to do? What's the next thing to do? And the next thing is what this bill's about. It deals kind of some follow-up of the last measure, but it also really fundamentally seeks to decouple the loss of losing your license with the nature of the crime. Because the notion here is that, oh my God, all these horrible things are going to happen and that we're going to change the law. What we have here, and we've got some examples, but in the code of everything marked in the code that we do not touch. So, for example, if you have delinquent parking tickets over a long period of time, you can still lose your license. If you're engaged in reckless driving under the vehicle code, you know, you can still lose your license. If you have a hit and run, you can lose your license. If you have a DUI, you can lose your license. If you refuse to take a test, you can lose your license. We do not change that. We don't change it in the commercial licenses because there's a separate code section and separate standards for people with commercial licenses that have a strict standard that if you have any problem at all, you can lose your license. What we're trying to do is to decouple the craziness. The stories that we heard last year of somebody who jumped a fare for $1.50 and ends up losing a license. The story of someone who didn't get their tags and lost their license or filled out the wrong paperwork. It was unbelievable what this measure unleashed in terms of frustration that people have with government and the incredible inequity that we are imposing upon our own people. And so what we do here is we are decoupling. And that decoupling is not the crime, it's the loss of license. There still can be a hearing, but what now happens is there's an automatic loss of license for failure to do anything. You forget your ticket, you moved, you didn't get notification, bingo, you lose your license. And the impact on people's lives is nothing less than extraordinary and not fair. You know, and so the Department of Justice issued a recommendation, a similar recommendation. I was back at the White House as a result of working on these things, and the Department of Justice, the AG, talking about this very same thing. States urged to not use license suspensions as a means of coercing payment. That's what we're doing. So we've took this measure. SB 881 continues and established that courts will not use these suspensions as a tool to collect debt. And the bill establishes the ability, the second thing that it does that's important is it begins to look at the question of the ability to pay that we looked at last year for civil assessments as a prerequisite to trial. In other words, if I don't have money, if I'm poor, if I can't pay bail, I don't have a right to a hearing. I'm sorry, in every bone of my body, that runs foul of what this Constitution is about. This is one step further of a long march that I will engage in as I am here to right those wrongs. I ask for your support and turn it over to the people a lot smarter than me.
Senator Ersford, thank you. We'll turn it over to witnesses in favor, please.
Yes.
Welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Let's start with Angelica Flores Sotelo, who has direct experience with
Introduce
this.
yourself first, please.
Oh, I'm Elisa Della Piana. I'm the legal director of the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights.
Okay.
It's great to be here. And this is Angelica Flores Sotelo, who has direct experience with this issue.
Good afternoon, Senators. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak before you. Like she said, my name is Angelica Amaranta Flores Sotelo, And in 2013, I received a traffic ticket for not coming to a complete stop at a stop sign. And at the time, I was homeless, pregnant, and with my other child trying to go to a shelter. So I was just, my mind, it was just really crazy at the time. And I guess I was in a rush. And then the day of, like I said, I was going to the shelter. After that, I went to the court to try to take care of the ticket. And some courts don't have child centers, so I had to come back again a few times. And then finally, I was able to see the judge. They ordered me about 500 and something in fees, but I requested community service hours. They granted me the community service hours, but when I came back in to turn in the paperwork, and because I did it through my church, and I did it as fast as I can, I did it before the deadline, I turned everything in, I paid all the fees that I needed to pay. It was like $100 and something versus the 500, so I paid all of that, but there was some clerical error. The courts didn't process the paperwork correctly, and I don't know if they got lost or what happened, and they didn't update the system, so my license was suspended. And as a result, they tacked on more fees, they suspended my license, my wages and benefits were garnished. I requested a hearing to see a judge and to vacate the civil assessments. They were both denied twice through me and through the East Bay Community Law. And basically my options were either pay the like $1,500 because they added another $500 of a civil assessment fees to pay, or just wait. I've been fighting for over 2 years. I finally got my license. Yes, I finally got it this year, right before my birthday, February, I believe, 28th. And it was extremely difficult trying to find shelters, like my car sometimes would be where me and my kids would have to have all our stuff and stay, let alone the childcare. So I'm a full-time student. I'm a single mother. The housing situation, I barely found housing after, 2 or 3 years, and March 23rd of this year, so barely a few weeks ago, actually. And it's been almost impossible trying to take them. Some places don't have BART, some places don't have bus. People don't ever want to give you a ride. Nobody wants to let you borrow the car, and if you drive, you're like scared. So I think that this bill would really help out a lot of people in my community that can't afford to pay. It's like, just because we're asking for community service hours, it's kind of not fair. They corrected the error and let me get my license, but I'm still getting my wages garnished through the franchise tax board, and I still have it on my record. I have to pay $264 just for that one car to be insured. And I mean, I'm an intern, thank God I don't have to find a big job, but it's really impacting everything. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Other witnesses, please. Okay.
As I said, I'm Elisa Della Piana. I've been working on traffic court and license suspension issues for over 10 years, and I've had the opportunity to see firsthand how much worse things have gotten in that time. As you heard, there are many types of license suspensions. Most are focused on public safety, and there's this small type of punishment imposed on people who just can't afford to pay a traffic ticket. And if you look at a map of California, a map of the rates of license suspensions for failure to pay or appear, and a map of poverty rates, you'll see there's 92% overlap in terms of the highest suspension rates and the highest poverty rates. And that's a powerful message about what our current policy is doing. Setting tickets at between $500 and $800 a pop is depriving poor communities of money that's needed for other household essentials. And not only that, it's keeping people in poverty. One example is we have a teenager in Bakersfield who got 2 truancy tickets for missing school when she was helping her single mom take care of her younger siblings. She couldn't afford to pay those tickets. She lost her license. She's now a young adult who has a job offer that she can't take because it requires a driver's license. And so we are setting people up to be haunted by fines and fees and preventing them from being able to pay by working. So not only does losing a license not help collect the debt, it creates hurdles that prevent people from paying off their debts. One state study found that 42% of people who had their license suspended lost their jobs. And the ones that subsequently found another job, their pay was 88% less than before. This policy is keeping people in poverty. The committee analysis raises a concern about people not resolving tickets to avoid getting DMV points. And I think it's important to note that a failure to pay is actually a conviction that's reported to the DMV, that people are being convicted in absentia without being present, and the sentence for that underlying offense is what triggers the failure to pay. And so even without ever appearing in court, people are being convicted, and those points for the underlying offense is going on the record. So any analysis of this current traffic court system has to take into account the fact that many Californians cannot afford to pay $500 to $800 for a jaywalking ticket, for example. Our current policy of suspending licenses is creating a modern-day debtor's prison. We're taking people's licenses away and then saying it's a misdemeanor offense to drive without the license, which some people need to do. We have another dad in LA, a young dad who knew that his license was suspended but drove his son to cancer treatments at the hospital because he had to do that. And then, got arrested for driving on a suspended license. And finally, the current policy it negatively impacts public safety. The National Association of Motor Vehicle Administrators recommends against license suspension for failure to pay or appear because suspensions are not an effective use of public safety resources. We don't want our officers being debt collectors with handcuffs. They have important things to do. There are a number of, as Senator Hertzberg so beautifully said, there are a number of problems with the current traffic court system. This is one small necessary step. We have to reduce the fines and fees that have ballooned out of control. We have to require courts to consider ability to pay. But the first step is SB 881. We have to get people back to work and make our traffic court system more equal by ending license suspension as a debt collection tool. Thank you.
Thank you. Other witnesses?
Oh, there it goes. Mr. Chair, Mike Carroll with the Western Center on Law and Poverty. We are one of the co-sponsors of this measure. This is the fourth year that we have been engaged in this endeavor. And as Senator Hertzberg noted, last year we were able to make some really significant progress on a bipartisan basis. Not only was SB 405 passed unanimously in both houses of this legislature, but the amnesty provision had strong bipartisan support, and we want to thank the governor for his recognition of what he described as a hellhole of desperation for the families like Angelica who are caught up in this situation. And there are literally hundreds of thousands of people still continuing to be trapped in this court-ordered debt morass. We strongly support SB 881 and encourage you to vote aye today.
Thank you. Can we have other witnesses in favor of this legislation step forward, please?
Maya Ingram for the ACLU of California, co-sponsor and strong support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Danielle Lynch on behalf of the California Association of Local Conservation Corps. We work with disadvantaged at-risk youth throughout the state who already face giant hurdles to getting employment, childcare, keeping employment, and I think having their licenses suspended really makes it even the more difficult for them to really succeed in life. So we're very supportive of this bill.
Christina Haratoon on behalf of the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights. We're very proud to be co-sponsoring this bill, and we urge your support.
Brittany Stone-Cipher from Legal Services for Prisoners with Children. License suspension as a debt collection tool traps people in cycles of poverty and creates pathways to incarceration, so we're very proud to be co-sponsoring and supporting this bill. Thank you.
Andrea Richardson, representing All of Us or None, in support.
Mari Castaldi from the East Bay Community Law Center. I worked with Angelica and hundreds more like her. We're proud co-sponsors of this bill.
Thank you. I'd like now at this time to call people that have concerns or opposed to the legislation. Can you come forward if anybody's here for that purpose? Okay. I think that I don't see anybody. I think, Senator, that when I became chair of this committee, I took all the staff of the committee over to the St. John's Women's Shelter in Sacramento. And we all had discussions with the people in the shelter. And the most predominant point that the women in the shelter made was not paying the traffic fines and penalties was one of the major reasons, and not having a vehicle was one of the major reasons why they were in the shelter. So it's not only that they're in prison, they're not able to get out of a shelter. And I think your bill hit home with me a couple weeks ago when I visited a state prison. And I talked to this 19-year-old kid who was in state prison. And I said, well, why are you here? And sometimes they don't want to talk about it, but this kid did. So he said he was 19. He didn't pay his traffic fines, so he got put in the county jail. And unfortunately, the large room where he was in, it was in kind of like a big room with a lot of inmates in the same place. They mixed the gangs, and there was a fight that started, and he got involved in the fracas that was going on there. So what happened to him is he got arrested and convicted of assault and battery and got put in state prison for several years. And he was only put into prison a few days before because of the traffic fine, that he didn't pay. So the county jail is different than what the county jail was before realignment. The county jails are now people serving up to 3 years in the county jail. That's a different group than what, before realignment, it was a year or less. So I think that a lot of people think that your bill has merit on that basis also, that there's a new system in the county jails. They're coming to us asking for, I'm on the budget committee on public safety, they're coming to us and asking for money to fix up these jails so they can take care of people for 3 years rather than just a short-term person. And they're asking the state, and the state's already spent $2 billion on this. So the only question I have for you, Senator, is what else do we need to do? This is a mess.